Welcome to Ooze Away History. Many people speak about the Roman legions, their armor, their banners, and their victories. But not every soldier of the Roman Empire was a legionary. Tonight, you step into the life of an auxiliary soldier, one of the countless men who formed the backbone of Rome's armies, often overlooked, rarely remembered, and essential to holding the empire together. As this story begins, you are not watching from a distance. You are there. So allow your eyes to close, let your breathing slow, and gently picture yourself standing at the edge of the Roman world, where routine matters more than glory, and where history passes quietly, one ordinary day at a time. You are 17, or close enough that no one questions it anymore. In the region where you grew up, near the broad valleys and low hills of Thrace, life has always followed steady patterns. Fields are divided carefully. Work begins early. The same paths are walked each day, pressed smooth by generations of feet. As you grow older, you begin to notice how crowded those paths have become. There are many young men, all strong enough to work, all waiting for their turn. Land is limited, and what exists has already been promised. Some plots belong to older brothers. Others are tied to family arrangements made long before you were born. Even honest labor has its order, and you often find yourself standing behind others who arrived earlier. Your family works quietly. There is no excess, but there is stability. Your mother knows how long the grain will last by lifting a sack and listening to the sound it makes. Your father judges a season by the way tools wear down, not by hope or worry. You learn to notice these things too. You learn how leather softens with use, how a roof sounds different before rain, how a worn sandal tells you more about distance than any spoken measure. And slowly, without drama, you understand something else. Working hard does not always lead somewhere new. In your village, talk of Rome does not sound like legend. It is practical. Men speak of it in the same way they speak of markets or harvests. Quietly, without excitement. The Roman auxiliaries. Several men from your region have gone before you. Some left and were not seen again. Some returned years later, carrying themselves with a steadiness that did not need explanation. They spoke little, but when they did, their words were measured. And some sent money home. Not great sums, nothing that would change a life all at once, but enough to matter, enough to buy oil when it runs low, enough to replace a tool instead of repairing it again, enough to make a winter feel shorter. Your father's younger brother joined before you were old enough to understand what it meant. You remember the letter he sent. You could not read it yourself, but it was read aloud by someone in town who knew the words. The message was careful and orderly, as if the sentences had been taught how to behave. He wrote about routine, about marching, about learning new words slowly through repetition. He wrote about keeping equipment clean, about standing watch, about days that passed without much to distinguish one from another. At the end of the letter, there were a few coins. After that, the idea of joining never felt distant. It settled into your thoughts quietly, becoming familiar over time. You do not leave home because you dislike it. You leave because there are too many futures already claimed. The day you go is simple. The sky is pale. The air carries a light dampness from the night. There is no gathering, no speeches, just the quiet movements of a household that understands the shape of the moment and chooses not to give it more weight than necessary. Your mother places bread into your hands. Dense bread, made to last. Your father adjusts the strap of your bag and checks the knot twice, saying nothing. You step away from the familiar paths, not quickly, not slowly, just steadily. By the time you reach Roman service, the journey has already taught you what you need to know. Life in the auxiliaries is ordered. Days are divided carefully. You are given a place, a task, and a rhythm to follow. You learn to stand where you are told, to move when signaled, to wait without impatience. Years later, you find yourself far from home, farther than you once imagined. Now you stand on the northern edge of Roman Dacia, near forests and low hills that feel unfamiliar but no longer strange. The fort where you serve is made of wood and earth, practical and solid. It does not impress, it endures. Here, among men from many regions, you learn that border duty is rarely dramatic. Most days are quiet, most watches pass without incident. The work is repetitive, sometimes dull, and steady enough that thoughts begin to slow on their own. And as evening approaches and the light softens around the fort, you take your place among the others, ready to begin another ordinary watch. Morning does not announce itself. There is no sudden sound, no clear signal that the night has ended. Instead, the darkness thins gradually, and the shapes around you grow softer and more familiar. Wood, earth, and canvas begin to separate from one another as light reaches further into the fort. You wake when others do, not because you are startled, but because the rhythm of the place pulls you up naturally. Someone nearby shifts their weight, leather creaks, a low voice murmurs a few words, not meant for anyone in particular. You sit up slowly, letting your body catch up to the day. The ground beneath you feels cool and firm, pressing evenly through cloth and skin. You stretch your arms, roll your shoulders, flex your fingers once or twice, easing stiffness that no longer surprises you. These movements are familiar. They belong to the morning. You dress without hurry. Fabric slides into place. Your belt settles against your waist, tightened to the same notch you always use. The leather has softened over time, shaped by repeated wear, no longer resisting your touch. As you step outside, the air greets you quietly. It smells of damp earth and old smoke, the remains of last night's fire still lingering faintly. A thin mist lies low to the ground, drifting lazily between buildings and posts. You breathe in slowly and feel the coolness spread through your chest, steady and refreshing. Breakfast is simple. Bread, dense and coarse, broken into pieces by hand. Sometimes porridge, warm and plain, eaten from a shared vessel. You chew slowly, feeling the weight of the food settle. Not exciting, not unpleasant, simply sufficient. Conversation is minimal. A few low remarks pass between men, nothing that demands response. Silence fills the rest of the space comfortably. When it is time, you move to your tasks. You begin with your equipment. You sit down, resting your kit across your knees, and work methodically. You brush away dust that gathered overnight. You check straps for wear, fingers moving along familiar paths. You tighten what is loosened, smooth what is folded the wrong way. There is no urgency here. Each piece receives the same attention it did yesterday and the day before that. The repetition brings a quiet sense of order. Your breathing slows without effort, matching the steady pace of your hands. Around you, others do the same. Men from different lands, speaking in different accents when they speak at all absorbed in identical movements. Words are unnecessary. A glance is enough. A nod confirms what needs no explanation. When you finish, you rise and wait. Waiting is part of the work. The fort around you feels solid and settled. Timber darkened by years of weather. Earth packed down hard by countless footsteps. Pathways worn smooth through use, curving gently between buildings. Nothing here is decorative. Everything has a purpose, and knowing that purpose makes the space feel calm. As the morning continues, you are given small duties, carrying supplies from one place to another, checking posts, walking short, familiar paths that require no thought. Each task blends easily into the next. There is no sense of time passing quickly or slowly. It simply moves forward at its own pace, guided by routine. By the time the sun has fully risen, you feel grounded, awake, present. The day has taken its shape around you, steady and predictable, and you move within it without resistance, ready for whatever quiet work comes next. Later in the day, you return to the perimeter. The path feels even more familiar now, warmed by the sun and pressed smooth beneath your sandals. Your steps fall into an easy rhythm, one that matches your breathing without effort. You walk slowly, letting your attention move outward, then back again, never lingering for long. The land beyond the fort remains quiet. Low hills stretch away under a pale sky. The forest edge stands still, its leaves shifting only when the breeze moves through them. Birds pass from tree to tree, settling briefly before lifting again. Nothing here feels hurried. You pause at the usual points, resting your weight evenly, letting your gaze travel across the distance. Most of what you see requires no thought at all. The world simply exists, steady and unchanged. After a time, you are relieved from watch and guided back inside the fort. Near the entrance, a small stir of movement catches your attention. A merchant has arrived. This happens now and then, often without much notice. A man with a cart drawn by a patient animal, carrying goods from one place to another, following the quiet paths that connect forts and settlements. His presence shifts the air slightly, not with excitement, but with gentle curiosity. You join the others as he lays out his wares. There are small items, practical things meant to be carried easily. Bits of cloth folded carefully, simple tools, trinkets made of bronze and bone, worn smooth by handling. Nothing extravagant, nothing rare. You listen as he speaks, his voice calm, practiced. He names prices without urgency, knowing no one here is wealthy. Coins change hands slowly, thoughtfully. You reach into your pouch and feel the familiar weight of what you have saved. It is not much, just a small collection of coins gathered over time, set aside without ceremony. You do not spend often, and you do not rush this choice. Your fingers pause over a simple bronze bracelet. It is plain, formed into a smooth circle, its surface marked with shallow patterns that catch the light gently. It is not delicate, but it is well made, the kind of thing meant to last. You imagine it resting against your mother's wrist, not as a symbol of pride or distance, but as something solid and useful, something that traveled far and returned with purpose. You hand over the coins. The exchange is quiet. The merchant nods, wraps the bracelet in a scrap of cloth, and passes it to you. The weight of it is reassuring in your hand, cool and smooth. You tuck it carefully away. The moment passes without ceremony. Others make their own small purchases. Some buy nothing at all. Soon the merchant gathers his things, ties them down, and moves on, his cart rolling slowly away. The fort returns to its usual rhythm. You resume your duties without disruption. Another walk, another pause, another stretch of quiet attention given to the land beyond the walls. The afternoon light begins to soften, losing its sharpness. Shadows lengthen gently along the ground. The air cools just enough to be noticed. As evening approaches, the fort settles into itself. Torches are prepared, assignments are confirmed in low voices. Familiar faces pass by, each moving with the same unhurried certainty. Your thoughts return briefly to home, not with longing, but with calm awareness. The bracelet rests safely where you placed it, waiting for a time when it will be carried further. There is no need to think beyond that. The day has unfolded as expected. The work has been done, and as you take your place once more, surrounded by steady sounds and practiced movements, the world feels balanced, contained, and quiet enough to allow your thoughts to slow and your breathing to deepen as evening watch draws near. Evening settles over the fort without effort. The light fades gradually, slipping from pale gold into muted gray, then into the deeper tones of dusk. Torches are lit one by one, their flames steady and contained, casting warm circles of light against wood and packed earth. You take your place on watch. The position is familiar. Your feet rest on ground worn smooth by years of use. Your spear stands upright beside you, its weight balanced easily in your hand. You do not grip it tightly. You do not need to. It is enough to feel its presence. The air has cooled. It carries the scent of damp leaves and distant smoke, and the quiet sounds of night beginning to move. Insects start their steady rhythm beyond the walls. The forest darkens at the edges, shapes softening as detail fades. You look outward, calmly. At night, the land feels wider, even though nothing has changed. Sounds carry further. Small movements stand out briefly before blending back into stillness. Time stretches. Your body begins to notice the length of the day. Muscles relax. The warmth of torchlight contrasts gently with the cool air, and your eyelids grow heavy without warning. You blink. Your thoughts drift, not toward memory or worry, but toward nothing in particular. Breathing deepens. Your head dips slightly following the quiet pull of fatigue. Just for a moment. Before it goes any further, a subtle sound reaches you. A shift of weight. The quiet scrape of a sandal nearby. A fellow soldier nudges the base of your spear lightly with his foot. Not enough to startle you. Just enough to remind you where you are. You straighten slowly, adjusting your stance. Gratitude passes between you without words. He does not look at you directly. There is no need. This understanding has existed many times before. Falling asleep on watch is not taken lightly. Everyone knows the rules. They are rarely spoken because they do not need to be. Discipline here is not loud or theatrical. It is firm, established, and final when ignored. Tonight, nothing comes of it. You are awake. The centurion passes at a distance. His presence felt more than seen. His steps are measured, unhurried. He does not stop. The moment passes quietly, unnoticed. The watch continues. You focus on small things. The way torchlight flickers against the wall. The steady rhythm of insects beyond the fort. The faint outline of trees against the dark sky. Gradually, the heaviness fades. When the watch ends, there is no announcement. Only a subtle change. You hand over your position, exchange a brief nod, and step away. As you move back toward the barracks, you realize something familiar. The sleepiness has gone. You stayed awake too long for rest to take hold easily. Your body feels calm, but alert, caught between night and morning. Inside the barracks, the air is warmer. Familiar smells linger. Leather, wood, smoke, and the faint trace of wine. A few men are already there, settling in quietly. Someone produces a small jug. You take a cup, then another, sipping slowly. The wine is thin and ordinary, but it warms you gently. Conversation drifts through the space, low and unforced. Small remarks, quiet jokes, nothing that needs to be remembered. You sit back, listening more than speaking. These are the men you share the barracks with. You know their voices better than their stories. You recognize their movements, their habits, the way they settle into rest. Laughter rises briefly, then fades. Eventually, the space grows quieter. Cups are set aside. Bodies ease into stillness. The earlier fatigue returns, softer now, more welcome. You lie back, listening to the steady breathing around you. The fort holds its shape through the night. The watch continues elsewhere. Nothing presses, nothing demands. And as sleep finally comes, it does so gently, carrying you away on familiar sounds and routine, leaving the world quiet and contained until morning. Morning returns gradually. The darkness lifts without effort, and the shapes around you soften into view. Wood, earth, and shadow separate as pale light spreads across the fort. The air feels cool and clean, carrying the scent of damp ground and last night's smoke. You wake before being fully aware of it. Sounds guide you. The shift of bodies nearby. a low voice speaking a few words, someone stepping carefully across the floor. You sit up slowly, letting the day arrive at its own pace. Outside, the sky holds a light gray color, even and calm. After a simple meal, a small group is formed for patrol. There is nothing unusual about it. A short walk beyond the fort, following familiar paths, checking what rarely changes. You take your place among the others. The ground is still cool beneath your sandals as you move away from the walls. The fort recedes behind you, solid and quiet, returning to its steady rhythm as you pass beyond it. The land opens gently. Grass bends underfoot, darkened by moisture. Low plants brush against your legs as you walk. Birds move ahead of you, lifting briefly before settling again. The forest edge remains at a distance, calm and unmoving. The patrol moves slowly. There is no hurry, no tension. You look because that is what you are meant to do. The habit carries you forward without thought. Soon the outlines of a small village appear. It sits where it always has, close enough to the fort to feel familiar, far enough to remain its own place. Low buildings made of wood and earth cluster together. Thin smoke rises from hearths, drifting lazily into the morning air. The villagers notice you, but without alarm. Some pause in their work. Others continue as they were, glancing up only briefly. This sight is not new to them, neither are you. You move through the village at an easy pace. A man nods as you pass. A woman adjusts a basket at her hip. Children linger at a distance, watching quietly until called back by a voice you cannot hear. There's no need for words. Your presence is part of an agreement understood without explanation. You walk, you observe, you continue on. Someone offers water. You accept, drinking slowly, handing the vessel back with a nod. The exchange is simple and calm, carrying no weight beyond the moment itself. You notice small details, the way a doorway has been reinforced, the smooth wear on a threshold, the sound of tools striking wood at a steady pace. Life here moves forward in familiar patterns, much like it does inside the fort. After a short while, the patrol turns back. The village settles behind you, returning to its quiet routine. The path leads you once more toward the fort, its walls rising slowly into view. By the time you pass through the gate again, the sun has climbed higher. The day feels established, steady, predictable. Nothing has changed. And yet, as you rejoin the familiar sounds of the fort, there is a subtle sense that the morning has completed one of its many small cycles, making space for whatever comes next. Back inside the fort, the morning continues as it always does. Equipment is returned to its place. Sandals are brushed clean. Small tasks fill the time without drawing attention to themselves. The sounds around you remain familiar. Footsteps on packed earth. Low voices. The creak of wood as doors open and close. Then a signal passes quietly through the space. A word here, a gesture there. You are told to assemble. The movement begins without urgency. Men drift from different parts of the fort, converging on the open area where lineups are held. No one rushes, no one delays. This too is part of the rhythm. You take your place among the others. Rows form naturally, shaped by habit rather than command. You stand shoulder to shoulder with men you know by proximity more than by name. Familiar outlines, familiar postures, the shared understanding of how to stand, where to look, when to be still. The ground beneath your feet feels firm and level. The centurion steps forward. He does not raise his voice. He does not wait for silence to fall completely. His presence is enough. Conversations fade on their own. Small movements settle. Attention gathers without effort. He speaks plainly. His words are measured and direct, shaped by routine rather than emotion. He reminds you of duties already known, of order, of readiness, of the importance of doing things as they have always been done. You listen without strain. Then he says something new. A small number of men will be reassigned. Not today, not immediately, but soon. The words land quietly. There is no explanation offered, no destination named, no reason given. Just a statement of fact, delivered in the same tone as everything else. Some of you will be sent elsewhere. The centurion does not pause for reaction. He does not look for it. He continues speaking, covering details that matter in the moment. Preparation, schedules, the continuation of daily duties. You remain still. Around you, no one shifts noticeably. No one turns their head. The formation holds, steady and composed. This is how such things are announced. Change does not arrive with ceremony. It enters calmly like any other order. When the centurion finishes, he dismisses you with a brief gesture. The lineup dissolves slowly, men stepping away in measured movements, returning to their assigned paths. You do the same. As the fort resumes its usual rhythm, the announcement lingers quietly in your thoughts, not as worry, not as anticipation, simply as a fact that now exists alongside all the others. Some men will go, some will stay. For now, nothing has changed. The day continues. Tasks resume. Voices return to their usual volume. The walls remain where they have always been, holding the space steady. You move through the rest of the morning without disruption, aware that something has shifted, but not yet taken shape. And as the sounds of the fort settle once more into familiar patterns, you find it easy to let your thoughts slow again, knowing that answers will come later in their own time, and that for now, there is nothing more required of you than to remain where you are.